Hey there guys, this is Sam.
And Justin.
And Bailey.
At the Survival Review. And today we are going to be talking about Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, spoilers and all.
Yes, this is just completely spoiler-filled. We already did our spoiler-free review, so you can check that out.
Yep.
This is just us discussing everything about this movie.
Yep. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, don't watch the rest of this video.
No.
Turn it off.
Well, speaking of, rumors, I did pay attention to some of the rumors going into this. I didn't really care too much about them, but one of the biggest rumors, because, Luke wasn't on the poster, and is Luke Kylo Ren? No. He's not. Of course
That's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
That is.
I knew that from the start. Not because one of the first pictures released for the movie was Kylo Ren with his mask off.
Yeah.
Just because that's a stupid idea, and they would never do that.
Yeah. Now, another rumor that I heard a long time ago was that Kylo Ren was Han Solo's son. That was the first rumor I ever heard, was that Kylo Ren was going to be based kind of off of this character, Jason Solo, that I know nothing about, but was in, the Star Wars books.
Yeah.
Which obviously aren't canon, but,
No.
I guess it was kind of true.
It's kind of true, yeah. He is his son. Which, when they reviewed that, I was just like, oh, crap.
Yeah. Because that just adds
A lot more.
a whole big mess of things to the movie.
Yeah. I want to get to the big spoiler later.
Yeah.
The big
We'll get to
spoiler.
that later.
We'll get to that one later. We'll just discuss some of the other stuff going in. I guess we'll talk about the one thing that everybody had a question about, which is Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And Mark Hamill gets second billing in this movie.
Second billing.
It literally, in the credits, it goes, Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill. He's in the movie for 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And all he does is
Very
this.
He's basically, yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
And my problem with that is just that I expected it to be a really cool moment where he just pops in the climax and saves the day. And an epic moment. And so that didn't happen. It was kind of oh. But
It's kind of a little disappointing,
Yeah.
but honestly, as I was watching the movie, it's kind of how I expected it to end.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Because the whole plot of the movie is surrounding finding him.
yeah.
It's not about,
And
him coming in to save the day. The whole
Yeah.
plot really is, we need to find Luke Skywalker before the dark side, or
before
they,
before Snoke,
The
and
Order.
the First Order.
The
The
First
First
Order.
Order.
And speaking of that, Snoke, the Supreme Leader Snoke character,
yeah.
who is played by Andy Serkis, of course,
Yeah.
because he can't play actual people in movies.
No.
And I didn't like that he looked a little too CGI.
Yeah,
Yeah, I felt the CGI could have been a bit better. But
Yeah.
he was cool though.
he was cool.
He's cool. He's like this trilogy's emperor.
Yeah.
I like how they're kind of doing their own version of the original trilogy.
Yeah.
So Snoke is kind of like their version of the emperor, and you don't know a whole lot about Snoke, but apparently he's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I want to see where they go with that. At first, though, when I first saw him, I thought he was literally that tall. Until I thought he was
That's what I
yeah.
thought too.
Me too.
But it was
Yeah.
still intimidating.
Yes.
That was not on accident that he
No.
was that big.
No.
Because he is an intimidating character, and that was just a literal interpretation
Yeah.
of his intimidation.
Yes.
Just he's huge.
And then one of the
Yeah.
characters we forgot to mention in our actual review is Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Who I thought was great.
Yeah.
And especially when he has the mask on, that guy is just intimidating. It's
Yeah.
just
Scary.
scary. Yeah.
It's
He
even
really is.
scarier when he has his mask off. Because it's his face doesn't seem evil.
Yeah.
It seems
Just
gentle.
Well, when he
it
has
seems
the-
gentle and soft, but what he's saying is, and how he's talking is just
Yeah.
intimidating and scary. So
But not
it
the
floors
entire
you.
time.
Not the entire time.
Because he does have moments of, there's a spark of hope in him.
Yeah.
He's not completely evil,
Yeah.
but
I have a feeling that's going to come into play in the later movies.
Without a doubt.
definitely.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things about, you find out that Rey is Force sensitive.
mm-hmm.
Pretty obviously in that one scene. Just basically where she finds Luke's lightsaber.
Yeah.
And just, everybody is assuming that she's Luke's kid. I think
I'm
that is.
99% sure.
It's pretty.
If it wasn't for the one scene where the lightsaber basically calls to her, and then she gets visions of of Darth Vader and Yoda. You hear Yoda,
And somebody tells her that lightsaber was Luke's, and it was his father
and his
before
father.
him, and now it calls to you.
So
That's
it's
kind of implying.
yeah.
It's kind of
some
like they're
relation.
laying it out in front of you. Here you go.
One of the things I found funny was when they find Luke's lightsaber. It's the same lightsaber from Star Wars and Empire, and that's when he loses in Bespin. And I'm like, how did they get that? Everybody's wondering how they get that. And they ask that question, and the little creature just goes, "Oh, that's a story for another time." And I'm like, what? Can you just tell us? I want to know.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Why do you leave us like this?
Yeah, but it was just it felt like just a weird line, just like, it's not. It's like it's
Because
addressing.
they were kind of addressing that it's weird that they have it, but also just
like not.
we don't know how we have it either. So you know.
Just, it's fine.
Maybe they'll explain it later.
And, that's one of a couple little sort of plot conveniences
Yeah.
in the movie. Another one that I thought about that I didn't even mention to you guys is it's kind of a little coincidental that the Millennium Falcon just happens to be there.
On Jakku.
On Jakku.
Yeah.
Because...
And that possibly Luke's kid is on Jakku.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little
It's-
convenient.
It's a little convenient that all that fell into place that way.
Yes.
But like we mentioned in our other review, that's kind of how Star Wars
Star Wars
is.
has a lot of plot conveniences in the movies. And speaking of Millennium Falcon, the reveal of the Millennium Falcon,
I
It's
love
hilarious.
that.
It really is funny.
that's the best part. Like, that's hilarious.
I liked that a lot.
We'll take the garbage then. This camera turns over to the Millennium Falcon.
And then the music plays.
Yes.
It's just like,
This was the best since like we've seen it with the big crowd. It was every time a big classic character came on, everybody cheered and all that stuff. When you see the Millennium Falcon, you cheer because it's the Millennium Falcon.
It's
What-
an iconic image that, like,
Yes.
we all knew was in the movie, but we were just excited to see it happen.
yeah. I loved when they first showed Han Solo and Chewie.
Yes.
I loved when they first came in and everyone, you just heard people just,
Yeah.
yes! And they come in their just iconic fashion.
And-
How you would always picture Han Solo and
And it's,
Chewbacca.
it's that line from the end of the trailer where he goes, "Chewie, we're home." Just
Yeah.
perfect. It's perfect.
It's just,
and then like,
amazing.
even like when C-3PO first appears, he's like pops right in
Yeah.
right in Han Solo's face.
Exactly like you would expect C-3PO
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah, I love that.
It was,
And then-
it
hello,
was-
sir.
Then the whole scene where they're escaping Jakku in the Millennium Falcon. We saw this movie in IMAX 3D, and that scene was actually shot in IMAX, which is really
Yeah.
cool. I wish more of the movie was shot in IMAX, but that was a really awesome scene. It's classic Star Wars. The Millennium Falcon flying away from TIE fighters, going through close corners. It was basically another Death Star.
Yeah.
This is like the third version of Death Star. Granted, it's different.
This one's bigger.
Yeah.
I love Han Solo's line, just, so it's bigger. Like,
Yeah.
Because honestly, who cares?
This is the Death Star. This is the Death Star. This is the new Death Star. I'm just,
So it's bigger, let's still just blow it up.
I love that, yeah. And granted, it's not Return of the Jedi where they're just building another Death Star. It's a different...
It's a literal planet that they built stuff onto.
It's
So basically it's Death Star, but it's also just a planet
the
that...
Death Planet.
It's the Death Planet.
And the fact that the plot of the movie is basically about BB-8 has this map to Luke Skywalker, very similar to A New Hope. R2 has the Death Star plans that they have to get to the rebellion. And it's like that plot is just very similar to A New Hope.
Yeah.
And there's even a cantina scene.
Their main goal with this movie, kind of, was to be a throwback movie, and I knew they weren't dumb enough to get rid of a character as iconic as R2-D2.
Yeah.
And that felt like...
That was another convenience.
Yeah,
That he just happens to turn on
at the end there.
right when they need him. Right when they need the map, he just
It almost
happens
felt
to
like the movie could have just ended before that.
Honestly, at the very end, I thought it was going to end.
Mm-hmm.
When they found the piece of the map and it was all, like, together, and that very end part, I thought
Just like ends with them
that's-
flying away.
Yeah, I thought that's how it was going to end, but then suddenly they're at this planet, and it's like, wait, what's going on? But then, I liked it, but I didn't like it at the same time.
It's a tease. It doesn't really say
It's a
anything else. It's
tease.
just a tease.
Yeah.
Which it kind of sucks just because you've been waiting over 30 years to see Luke Skywalker again, and you just see him just there. In the long run, it's just going to be a cool cliffhanger ending. But it just feels weird because like you've been waiting to see the original cast back, and just to have like him appear at the end for a couple seconds is like, oh, I would have liked to see more of him, but in the long run, it's going to pay off, and it's going to be awesome when he becomes the focus of Episode 8.
Yeah.
Are we
It's
going to
gonna be great.
mention Han Solo?
I think it's about time.
Are we going to talk?
I think it's a thing worth mentioning.
Oh yeah,
It's-
it's a small thing worth mentioning.
It's not even that big. It's not even a big part of the movie. It's
Oh, no.
It's something small.
No. So
Unfortunately, our favorite guy, Han Solo, does die.
yes,
He dies.
He's killed at the hand of his own son,
Yeah,
My
Kylo
heart
Ren,
breaks.
or Ben.
that was crazy when he calls him Ben, like
Yeah.
after Obi-Wan. So that was a really interesting thing to have him actually call him Ben. And like that was really cool. And that's been one of the big rumors for this movie is that Han Solo's gonna die. So it didn't surprise me when he died.
No.
It still broke my heart.
Yeah, but when that scene began, I was like, this is not gonna be good. And then when Han Solo starts walking out on that platform, I'm
You
like,
just know.
my heart was actually pounding. I was like, no, it was seriously like that because I'm like, it's gonna happen. It's the way this scene is set up. There's no way it's just gonna end with Han Solo getting out of there.
You're trying to prepare yourself,
Yeah.
but there is no preparing
It basically
for
was.
Han Solo's death.
It's
like
was.
This is not the
it's
first time
heart-wrenching.
that two characters have been on a weird platform in the middle of a thing in the Star Wars universe, and
No.
it never ends well.
No, it doesn't. That scene was so well done.
Yeah.
You think Kylo Ren, you think he's gonna turn good.
Because you see his face, you see like you could even in his eyes
He was
see
emotional.
tears in his
The acting
eyes.
was so good in that scene.
He really was good.
You could-
What's that actor's name?
Adam Driver.
He's good.
You could see
He was
tears in his
good.
eyes. You could see that good part of him trying
Yeah.
to come out, but then in the end, the evil just took over.
Oh, that was so
And
painful to watch.
you could even when he like kills him, when he's just standing there holding him, and you could see in his eyes,
Yeah.
he's regretting it, but he knows that he had to do it.
Yeah, that was just
So
heartbreaking.
emotional and just so painful, especially for fans. Like you heard people in the audience just
Gasp. Yeah.
no.
And my one this is nothing that in the long run I don't think I'm gonna care, but kind of problem with that is that I did want to see like Han and Luke reunite at some point. That would have just been cool from a fan point of view.
Yeah.
And the fact that that's now not gonna happen.
We should probably talk about Rey now.
Right.
Rey. She was a very good character.
Mhm.
I love the build up to her. I love how they showed her, how they introduced her.
I just thought of the scene where she first uses her force powers
Yeah.
to let the guy release her.
Yeah.
And you're gonna drop your gun too. I'm gonna drop my gun too. And just drops the gun. Or when Kylo Ren walks in, he sees that she's gone, he starts tearing up the place, and the two
And
stormtroopers.
they do this. They walk in, they go,
Oh,
Nope.
yeah.
and they walk in.
Not gonna be part of that shit.
No,
No
Not
way.
gonna get into this. Not gonna see.
Or then at the beginning when we're Poe Dameron, and he's just like, do I talk first? Do you talk first? It's kind of weird with the mask thing.
Yeah, I
You sound kind of weird.
But
Just the humor in this
But
movie was great.
It really was. It was spot on.
It was that perfect Star Wars humor.
back to Rey though. I am 99.9% sure that she is Luke's
Yes.
child.
Then that also adds to the questions of like, if that is true, who is Luke's wife?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, if the whole raise the kid thing is true, which it most likely is,
Yeah.
who's his wife? So that's another interesting question. It leaves things open, but does it in the right way. Not in the Terminator Genesis way, where it just doesn't explain stuff because it's lazy. This is like,
Everything bad you always refer back to Terminator Genesis.
well, because it's Terminator Genesis.
I
that's
know,
a
but
piece of
I noticed that.
It's not like that. All the questions you don't get answered it's done in a way where it's like you want to see them answered. It's not like, oh, this movie's incomplete without it.
Yeah.
It's just building up to it perfectly.
There
It's
are
cool.
dark parts of this movie. There are dark, very emotional parts of this movie
Even
that
when-
they're heart-wrenching.
But like in this movie, when
Much.
Kylo Ren, when he gets the lightsaber splash on his face is cut and it's like bloody.
And you see blood.
Yeah, which is
You
unexpected.
see blood on
You see
Finn's
him.
mask.
You see him pounding on his.
Yeah.
On his.
That was crazy.
His armor, whatever.
When Chewie
His
shot him.
wound. It was
Yeah.
his wound.
Yeah.
And like
And
you
then,
see blood in the snow, and that's something that you
Yeah.
didn't get with the original movie.
and speaking of that last scene, that was the best moment when Kylo, when he goes to like force the lightsaber to him and it just flies past him and goes into Rey's hand.
Yeah.
That scene was great.
That was.
That was
really cool.
That just shows you how much like this movie is able to develop characters and make you care. Because when that scene happened, you just got pumped, just like yes. And that's for a character we just met in this movie, and as far as we know, has no ties to like any of the other characters. I had a feeling that's what they were building towards, because all the trailers had showed Finn with the lightsaber doing everything, and I'm like, I have a feeling that's just like a red herring, and really it's gonna be Rey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of had a feeling that was gonna happen because he was the one in all the advertisements with the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Like he's the guy, and they show like him fighting Kylo Ren, which is a crazy fight scene too. Where he just gets his
Kind
ass
of bad
kicked.
how
Really was.
the entire time he's just unconscious at the end.
That is true.
Like
That's
he
true.
didn't even wake up. Like you would think they would have him wake up and like say something or
Yeah.
no. It's just
But I like it kind of like came full circle because Chewie was carrying him in and Chewie helped
Yeah.
him out, whereas he helped out Chewie in the beginning. So I
Yeah.
like that. I just like that we can finally put all these rumors to rest.
Yeah.
Well, now we can start rumoring about the next movie, but
Oh, yeah.
as of right now, we can put all these rumors to rest. Now we know the relationships between all the characters. We know what's going on with Luke, and kind of we'll get an idea of what's going on with Luke. There was no Lando in this one,
No.
so I hope he comes back though. I want to see Lando because, I mean, he wasn't necessary for the story, so it's okay.
I would definitely like to see Lando.
Yes.
I mean,
So-
we got Admiral Akbar.
Yeah,
Lando.
Admiral Akbar was in there.
Didn't even say his line.
No,
Didn't say his line.
but he was there.
Because that would have been eye-rolly and...
It would have
Yeah.
been, but come on.
We surprisingly got no eye-rolling moments in this movie.
Surprising.
Even though there's some like kind of silly moments, like when Finn sits down and he turns on the game from the first movie,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where it's like, you know,
And it was still the same claymation.
Yeah.
Little, it was
yeah,
cool.
that was cool. You didn't have to do that, but it wasn't eye-rolling bad. It's not like whenever you see a remake and they try to recreate a line from the original, and it's just like, It's not like watching RoboCop and going, I'd buy that for $1. Even though they referenced the Kessel Run and less than 12 Parsecs line, which that's another one I could have done without. It didn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't eye roll. It was just kind of like,
It works.
it's cute, but that's about it.
So overall, I'd say that we're just in general really, really, really excited for episode 8 after watching
We're
this movie.
very,
We're
very
just-
happy with what we just watched.
And the
Yep.
fact that it worked.
Yeah.
This could
Let's
have-
just hope that 8 lives up to
Yes.
what we just watched.
I hope-
I'm pretty sure that it's going to.
Yes. I hope
I
it,
really
it
hope it
lives
does.
up to this movie and is able to make its own more than this one.
Yeah.
Able to make its own plots, you know, which it will. Again, this was just the introduction to the new trilogy, and it did that
Yeah.
perfectly.
It did a perfect, just nostalgia, just like throwback,
Just like
and
we're
now
back.
it can go off on its own, its own storyline.
Yes, which just gets me more excited for episode
Yeah.
8.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with it,
Absolutely.
how they're gonna play this out.
Yes.
Yep.
So.
So, until then.
Until episode 8, that'll be our next video. And
A year later. All right,
two,
guys.
2 years later.
2
for
years.
episode 8.
2 years.
We're skipping the spin-off. We're going straight to episode 8.
Yeah,
So
we
see you in
don't
2
care
years.
about that much.
Yeah. Bye.
Um,
But yeah, until next time, you guys. Thank you very much for watching.
we'll
and
talk to you later.